Okay, so what's going on? Okay, so the wait staff I think is behind a little bit because I'm guessing your orders haven't been taken, is that correct?
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's fine. Just give your orders quietly, not to disturb the speaker, okay? Because we don't want to upset our speaker. So give your orders quietly to the wait staff when they get back in here and take orders. And what else? What else, Stacy? Okay, Stacy has this basket. My name is Derek, if we haven't met. This is Lunch and Arbor Marketing. And is anyone here for the first time? First time? Okay, welcome. Welcome. We have a nice crowd here for the first time to see Social Threat, Scott Vowels and Dave Linabery. So we're very honored to have them with us today. And so we are a nonprofit. Well, not yet. We've actually, Bob Shannon and I have been going back and forth with the IRS, and it's been very exciting. And we're hoping to have an announcement today. Yeah, we're hoping to have an announcement today. But Bob gave the guy the third degree last week and answered all his problems. So anyways, we are a nonprofit. We will be ASAP. Stacy, we passed a hat here if you want to throw a couple bucks in the hat. It's a suggested $3 donation, but you can also be here for free. Right? If you want to eat, it's $10. The menus are on the table. That includes drink, tip, and your lunch, which is a great deal. So Stacy Collins from Dollar Bill is going to pass this. Just to give you an idea of format, the speaker talks for about 30 minutes. And then we have time for Q&A, and then around 12:40 we'll do introductions. So just so everybody knows, we're a couple minutes behind, but we still hope to get you out by 1. So if the speaker goes until 12:45, then we'll just be speedier with introductions. All right? So very good. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speakers. Dave Linabery, I know from Campbell Ewald, which is a great agency. I used to work there. And he's a great speaker. Scott, I just met today. Scott's the security expert. And I'm going to let them tell them about themselves and give them a big round of applause, please.
Hey, this is the first time I've had 152 speeches in the last year. Been held up by a soccer game. Scott and I have been friends for like a million years, and we're both in digital. I'm in social media, Scott's in security, and we keep noticing that the two are like hitting heads a lot right now. There's a lot of problems with security and social media. I'm sure you've all seen like a lot of bad things going on Facebook and a lot of other things. And so we decided to start this site called socialthreat.com, and we just started chronicling everything that's being hit, how to fix it, not just telling you, well, there's a problem or there's a hack. We're actually telling you how to fix it. So if you want to check that site out, that's what we're here for. We're going to talk about something that we started out talking about, our original title. We kind of deviated a little bit from what we originally were going to talk about, and the reason was things kept changing really fast, and someone pointed something out to us that was going on. So this is kind of a slight deviation from just security and getting into a little more, something a little larger and more insidious that's going on. We're going to start out talking about just with Facebook. Okay. Anybody? No. Nobody got this on one reference. Okay. Yeah, it's everybody. So this is a direct quote from our buddy Mr. Zuckerberg, who owns Facebook, and he's honestly believes that you do not care about your privacy. He may be right based on how people are actually behaving, and that this is the norm, and that basically deal with it. And we saw an article with Scott McNeely.
In about 1999, I don't know if you guys actually were paying attention to what Sun Microsystems, Scott McNeely was saying back then, but he got a lot of press over a comment that he made back in '99. He said, "Get over it. You don't have any privacy," something like that, and it freaked everybody out, right? So we're seeing those same quotes and ideas being replicated today. But this idea that your privacy is being eroded has been around for a while. It's not new.
Yeah, but this idea that Zuckerberg's saying is that you don't even care and you're giving it up freely, and if you don't believe him, this is what your kids are doing. 20% of all teenagers right now have sent nude photos. If you just count women, it's 40%. And 12% of teens have admitted sending them to complete strangers. Yeah, it is kind of weird. And that's not our figures, that's from Pew Institute. At the same time, people always think of Facebook as a big safe thing with lots of nice apps, and it's all free and it's cool. The reality is it's not. All 4 of these look like real apps. Farmville, an antivirus, The Sims, and who's looking at my profile. Not one of these is real. These are all Russian and Romanian mafia fake apps that have wiped out identities for hundreds of thousands of people on Facebook.
How many people have actually received, knowing that you know about it anyway, a fish through Facebook? Yeah? Did you guys actually get infected, or did you identify? Nobody's going to admit to that, so go ahead and lie. But yeah, they're increasing, and to begin with, one of the interesting things that's going on with malware and sort of the bad guys is that when this started out, this was distributing a kind of malware that just stole your passwords for Facebook and other things like that, your mail account and things like that. But what's happened increasingly with malware is that it's really just sort of a platform to download worse malware. So what's happening is you'll get an initial infection, and then after that, you'll actually get a really bad infection, something that's looking for banking information, possibly. Increasingly, what it's being used for is using you. Everybody knows about botnets, right? It's using you to attack other people. So the effect to the individual is actually pretty low. A little bit of processing problem. You'll hear people say, gosh, my computer's running slow, right? That's kind of that's a classic sign of an infection, and that's sort of what's going on. So.
Yeah, have anyone seen any of these 4 in particular? No? A couple. So this is what's kind of interesting. Every one of these has a fake URL that doesn't actually go to an apps page, which is something you should look for. They go to these unusual, distorted URLs. It's usually a friend you don't have, and you're being tagged in a photo by someone you've never met or heard of in your life, and usually as a name from a foreign country, which is unusual. And when you get there's actually no photo of you at all. Most of the time it's one of these kind of things. And they look very legitimate, or let's play this game, and it's like a picture from Sims, and it looks legitimate because it'll say play Sims now, but then when you're like, I don't know who the hell that person is that owned it, it's not actually EA Games. There's no mention of Sims on here, it just looks like it. And people keep falling for it and clicking on these things, just assuming, oh yeah, my friend invited me to play Sims, okay, thing. And yeah, your identity can get taken out very quickly. Now you may not notice a thing, but the reality is your information is going to get sent somewhere without you knowing it. And like Scott said, months and months later, and the rate of this is ridiculous. We're seeing every single hour there's a new one of these popping up. And when you consider, this is what really scares you the most. Facebook, unlike Apple or Microsoft or other companies that get apps sent to them every day to try, has no review process. If any of you have ever developed a Facebook app, it just goes in there and it's live that minute. Because they get about 30,000 apps given to them a day, and they don't know what to do with them. They can't possibly keep up with the review process, so there isn't one. So they just basically wait till they get a complaint and tear something down, which is not a good way to do business. Yes?
So you're saying, about a year ago, a couple of my friends got really into Farmville. So you're saying Farmville itself?
No, Farmville's not infected.
It was fake Farmville.
There's right. People are looking at it and going, oh wow, there's 55 million people an hour playing Farmville. Maybe that's a good target. And they're spending money on there at a rate of $5,000 a minute. Maybe I ought to hit that.
Yeah. Fake AV was another big one.
Yeah, that fake, the fake antivirus.
You get infected, and then you have to pay. Actually, they're not really infecting you, but you have to pay not to get the ad pop-ups, right? So it's a total extortion on your machine. You're not paying for anything.
Yeah, that whole antivirus interface is just a JPEG. It doesn't do anything. Like crap. And beside all this, Facebook is not admitting there's a problem, and they're trying to do something that they're never possibly going to achieve, which you probably noticed or thought in your gut is going on right now, and that's that they are trying to be the center of the web. They want Facebook to be the hub of the internet that when you think of, that's the internet. The problem is it's a lot like what we saw back in the 90s. And with all these problems going on, it's very possible you're moving towards kind of an Orwellian scenario there where you've got no privacy, identity's going anywhere, who knows who's sharing it, and you have to, everything is by default opt-in. You have to tell it, no, don't share my stuff, that's not right. So that's an unusual thing. And we're not saying this is going to happen, we're just asking a question. On the other hand, a friend of mine, who's a content strategist, real smart guy, Christian Ritz, brought up something interesting, which is that at the exact same time Facebook's trying to be the center of the web, Google and Apple are having a war real similar. and it's not really getting reported widely. What Apple's doing is they believe that there should be this world of safe apps. That you got all these little shiny little candy-like buttons you're going to push from now on. You're not going to go to this dangerous hacking world of Facebook. You're going to have apps everywhere. And it's so much easier. You don't want to go to Facebook. You don't want to go to Mashable and bookmark that. You just want a button for it. You don't want to go to Huffington Post. There's a button. There's an app for it. And everything will be safe. That's kind of like what AOL did in the 90s, right? They told you that was the center, that was the internet. Just these buttons. And it was all bullshit. It wasn't true. And Apple's telling you they're going to protect you from everything bad. Because you're going to have these safe apps that they've gone through and they've invented all of these. The reality is, they also give you Safari, which you can access any porn site in the world, and anonymously browse and get all kinds of horrifying things. So I don't know how they're actually protecting anyone by saying they're doing that, and then the other side of the mouth, they're giving you a browser that has all kinds of anonymous features, that might as well be from the Dutch. It's so open,
And worse still, it's actually creating a false sense of security, right? Like a lot, like you guys remember as you go to a website, you get a little green bar that tells you this site is totally safe, don't worry about it, everything's fine. Well, bad guys have begun to replicate that and just JPEGs on sites to help build confidence in bad sites. If you were able to do the same thing in Apple.
Use the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I generally don't have a problem with that. So if you were able to do the same thing in the Apple Store, right? If you were able to get a malicious application into the store, who would even think twice about that, right? Nobody. Apple has created, and that environment has created this sense of trust that nothing bad is going to go on in that environment. And there are pretty good research papers from
reasonable. Now we're going to have to talk without it. So there's some pretty good research papers that claim that you could get a malicious application through the Apple review process. That's pretty scary if that were ever able to happen.
It's dead. All right, moving on. Yep.
Do this?
So, it's real possible Apple's vision is going to make everything kind of safe and boring. Google's side of it is open web. Everything's going to be open web. And everything they're doing is moving towards cloud computing, towards open, moving everything towards mobile. Everything will be open. It's another direction. And everything's free is open as long as Google's making all the tools and owning all your personal data. And we don't know if that's going to actually make everything better, or is that going to make piracy increase and make this, what we're experiencing right now with all these hacks, is it actually going to get worse? Extremely possible it will get worse when you leave it open. And we don't know, and who's going to win this battle? There is a good reason that Eric Schmidt from Google left Apple's board of directors last year, and that Google is putting out products into beta at an unprecedented rate because they're trying to control screen. Because whoever controls the screen basically is controlling the web. They're trying to control what you see. Doesn't matter where the screen is. If it's, I don't know. I think they took it already. You guys hear me? Hello. You guys hear me? No?
Project.
All right, keep projecting. But there's that C-word control again. And ultimately, where the hell is Microsoft been? Have you even heard about them in the press? They've lost relevancy, and no one ever talks about them anymore unless you're talking about gaming, because Xbox is still huge. And they're still talked about there at like E3 convention last week, but nowhere else. When you talk about the internet, you don't hear their name anymore.
They're trying to build stuff into Xbox now. Like they're putting Facebook, and you can actually try to use Facebook on Xbox, and it's just things like movie downloads, entertainment, things like that. But
yeah, nobody's really paying attention. So
okay. Now here's the thing. Each of these companies has a completely different view of the web, and they all are telling you that they're doing this because it's in your best interest. We're giving you a safe web. We're giving you an open web. We're giving you more social sharing. Reality is, so if you look at it this way, it's Facebook's going to tell you we're going to make it more social for you, but you're going to less privacy. And Google's saying it's going to be more open, but that's less safe. And Apple's saying no more safe, but that means we control it. So they're completely different versions of the web. But the only thing is, this is all about one thing. Forget those arguments. This is about one thing, and that's money. Period. Apple is very upfront about the money. They're telling you the internet is never going to be free. You want content? Sure, it's only $1. Just run an app. I know you bought 900 of them, but it's only $1. Yeah, and actually, if you think about it, if you look at the new iPhones, they've now made it so that you're going to put folders in. Now you think, oh, folders, that means I can organize it. No, that is not why they did that. They did that so that you can go, God, I've only got 2 reference apps in the reference folder. I guess I could download some more and get some more, and it's to make you get more apps. Facebook is a little shadier about how they get their money. They're going to tell you, yeah, the internet's free. It is free. But the cost is your data needs to be shared with people, just our trusted partners, the Romanian mafia. And Google is even more two-faced about it, because they'll tell you the internet's free, search is free. Oh, you want to be on the first page? Well, you're going to need some pay-per-click and some AdWords and a $40,000 SEO strategy for that. That's no problem. Otherwise, it's free. So they are all getting paid for this, and they're all trying to make money off this. And this, bottom line, that is what this is about. We do not have the answers to this, and neither do you. So we want to talk about that. What do you guys think about these 3 directions? Anybody disagree with us or think we're full of shit?
It's pretty pessimistic.
It is pessimistic.
Where's the good news?
I agree.
Yeah, I know. Well, the good news is, no matter what, you've got three companies that are trying to do something. They are trying to make things better. The problem is they are making it better for themselves, not necessarily for us.
So is it being regulated?
Sorry?
Is it being regulated?
No, there's no...
No regulation?
No, they want to each be the ones who sets those standards and set, you know, and sets it. So Google says, well, we're doing open social. That's the new standard. And then you believe them, but the reality is that's not a set in stone thing. None of the things the W3C does are set in stone. They're just recommendations. All this is recommendations. It's never going to get fully regulated, and it shouldn't.
So short shout out to the security perspective on this. There's a in the midst of all of this, right? All these companies are making plans for us. There are really 2 constituents that we didn't talk a lot about. One of them are all the people, right? The users of the environment. Second are the criminals. One of the interesting a paper that came out earlier in the year, March. I don't know if anybody read this, probably not. It was called "So Long and Thanks for All the Externalities." A guy from Microsoft wrote this paper, 12 pages, not the last word on the topic, but so I'll try to boil this down. His point of view and what he proposed in the paper is that we've created security procedures, processes, technologies that are so difficult to use, people have simply given up. They're not even trying anymore. And what's more, he did some calculations in it. He actually did sort of consumer-based risk assessments in it that showed with the amount of time that it takes you to do things like change your password, use a really good password, try to discern a phishing link, the big link that we had up earlier. You have to. We're asking people to try to actually figure out whether that's a bad link or a good link. He boiled all this down, and the end result was that it costs billions a year, given each of our time to do these things, and the losses, the average losses, are actually in the low millions. So at the end of the day, it's costing you money to do these things, which, by the way, is a horrible message, right? We don't want to say that, because we do want you to use AV, patch your system, do some simple things, but the extent that we're asking people to do these things, they're giving up. They're not even trying to do it anymore, which is compounding the problem. So.
Yeah. It's cheaper to let your computer get fucked up. How many of you have Macs? A lot of you. How many of you have Macs with antivirus software? 2. And how many of you realize that you never really got hit anyways? Most of you didn't, right? And that's the thinking with Unix people too. I'm not going to bother. And you know what? You really don't have to in a lot of cases. Now, a lot of these people taking these PCs and they're like doing something heretical, they're like, I'm just going to let my machine get infected. I don't care. I'll take the hit.
Yeah, I know. They're not
It's a weird,
taking the hit.
yeah, right.
It's other companies in the internet community that's being affected by that.
Which is a problem, but again, when you take a look at what we're asking them to do, it's not working. I can tell you at home,
What's the loss per person? It's like $10 or something?
yeah, the loss per person is really low. And versus he calculated $7.25 an hour for your time, and that's how the calculation came out. It's ridiculous. It's a really hard message to sell. Like at home, we switched to Mac. I could not get my wife to patch to change your password, to do any of that, and it used to frustrate me. We switched to Mac, and haven't had a problem in 3 years.
It's not a Mac. We're not telling you to move to Mac. We're just saying that thinking may not be wrong. And it's kind of heretical to say that, especially when you want to do security right, that you shouldn't have to bother with that. But the reality is, the amount of loss most people incur is about $10 a year. The amount they spend on antivirus software and all that's about $200 a year. You know, it's kind of silly.
So one of the things we need to do as technologists, and I don't know if anybody in here actually works in technology, but we've got to produce better products or ways of people to secure their environments, right? The problem is going to get worse because you guys remember the Aurora event at Google. Has anybody read about that? So the big Google hack, Google got breached, right? Well, that's sort of the beginning of a series of problems. As you put your data, Google Documents. I don't know about you guys. I have a ton of stuff in Google. I use Gmail. My calendar's out there. We've got documents up there. You lose trust as you put it in that environment. You really are, as we talked about earlier. You're trusting Google to take care of your information. It's a pretty big deal. And Facebook increasingly. I got dragged kicking and screaming to put a single picture of my kid on Facebook. I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And eventually my parents and everybody else that's on Facebook just beat me down. So we've got pictures out there. I try to do the best that I can, but ultimately, you should assume that you are going to lose control of that data, pictures, your emails. You should assume that that's going to happen. And if you don't want to lose it, don't put it out there.
But here's the downside. If you say, I'm going to delete my Facebook account, I'm sick of this shit, it can be professional suicide. It would be for me.
You can't.
I couldn't even do my work without that. So, I mean, it's a weird trade-off. We're in a really weird position right now where it's like we're trying to tell you one thing and the other. Yeah.
What's the remaining amount that you're going to do with the picture of my kid?
Well, no, actually they do. I'll tell you exactly what they do. They take over, they've been buying into ad networks legitimately and using your photo to say, Derek likes this.
Oh, right.
And it's a bullshit link. And it'll send you to something or infect you. They're actually buying legitimate banner ads. One of the best scams I ever saw, a mafia group bought into the biggest ad network, DoubleClick, bought a whole bunch of Mazda ads that ran on Times and Wall Street Journal on this. I mean, they put out hundreds of thousands of dollars of their own money to do this. The ad banner they put out there got approved, and then they said, we're going to make a change to it. There's a typo. Okay. And when they made the change, they swapped it with an infected one, and then were able to infect like 100 million websites, computers within 3 days because people were just going to these big popular sites, had no idea that just having the banner on the page would infect them. They didn't have to do anything or click on it. And just being there was enough to get them. And it was like, God, these guys are really getting smart. They're so organized that they'll actually buy into ad networks now and do things into legitimate channels to screw you.
Counterpoint, what Dave's describing is really propagation, real estate, right? They're trying to expand the network because your machine, they're not necessarily interested in the picture of your daughter. What they want is more real estate, more bots, because that they can sell. Chunks of botnets are absolutely being sold to do horrible things. Each one of them has particular characteristics. They're designed to attack particular sectors of the corporate environment. So that's kind of what's happening. They're building them, they're growing them, and as they lose them, you get cleaned up. They need more bots, so they continue to propagate the environments.
Everybody know what a botnet is?
No.
I was wondering about it. Okay, so botnet, Scott just assumed. A botnet is a really weird thing. These guys have figured out that it's really, the best analogy I can give is that when SETI came up with a screensaver, so everybody would download the screensaver and it would help you look for extraterrestrial life as a screensaver. It would download all the data, and then whoever won would get some giant prize or something like that if you actually found some. But the idea was spread the, SETI didn't have enough computers to look at all the data they were getting, so if everybody downloaded our free screensaver, it was really cool looking, we could get more computers to do the data. Well, what about the other way, the criminal way, which is if we got 50,000 computers infected with one thing that's all they're each going to do one little task for us, we can get a lot of crap done. Really evil. And that's what they're doing. You don't even know that your computer is being used as a slave, and it's pretty much PCs. But that's what they're doing. They'll get It used to be just like a couple hundred, a couple thousand computers were being used as little zombies when the owner didn't know about it. Now it's in the millions. And it's at the point where the feds have a hard time dealing with it because they're so organized and so well funded that it's ridiculous. It's a national problem.
What's the profit? What's the profit margin on doing something like that? Why would they do that?
Get into a bank.
You can do a bank. You can sell them as well, right?
So what I do is I have 100,000 bots, and I'll sell, depending on where they're located, right? U.S. is a high profit item. I'll sell 1,000 of them to you for $4 a piece. Right? You can do whatever you want, or you can also contract with me to download whatever kind of malware you want, and I'll have that created for you. In fact, if you'd also like me to actually perform the criminal activity, I'll do that too. Do you need me to cash it out for you, actually get the money? Yep, we can do that as well. So what's happening with criminal organizations, they're really sort of, it's crime as a service. You can't just give them the target and then pay them a bunch of money.
Yeah, when you think about what used to be a hack, a hacker used to be like a kid going in and defacing a website, or taking it down for a day, or redirecting it. Now it's a whole organization, usually the mafia, from a country that has millions of dollars at their disposal to do and hire lots of really good programmers from other nations, like Russia and Romania and Estonia, where they have no other choice for income, and train them to be criminals. And they're doing unbelievable things to U.S. banks, without being, and other kinds of financial institutions at a constant rate. It's so organized. You can go on YouTube and look up videos on how to do it. You can download DVDs. I want to get the Zeus Avalanche bot. Okay, you can get it for $7. Here's the DVD. But since they're sold overseas, we can't do anything about it. We can't shut them down. It's horrible.
Explain how you can get infected just by being on a website and are Macs vulnerable to that? And what
Yes,
about
they are vulnerable to
What
that.
about recommendation?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a horrible secret about the advertising industry that we've been doing for a long time. There's this thing called a web bug, and it's a 1-pixel thing that is on a page. We buy it. You can't see it, but basically what it does is, let's say you went to a car site because you were looking for a car, and there was a bug on that page, and then a couple days later you went to the New York Times site and we're just reading, and all of a sudden you magically got the exact same ad for the exact car you were just looking at appeared in 2 or 3 spots on the New York Times site. That's what that bug did, and it'll track you for about 48 days and continue to serve you. And if you change your habits, it'll change its habits in what it's going to give you. You don't have to take action for that to happen. It's passive enough to go, mouse movement or anything on the page is considered enough for it to go get spurred into action. If you stopped doing those things,
That's how
it
you
would,
can infect you the same way.
there's that way. That's one way, but another way is like I said, using
That's not affecting, that's
right.
serving up ads based on that information.
Yeah, whereas ours is being used, we're using it in a legitimate way, which is, okay, you look for that, well, you probably want to see ads about it, but they're doing, you're on this page, ha, got ya.
Right.
Yeah.
What about running no script? Is it a scripting?
That you can't run no script. That's something someone has to put into their page.
It's an app that blocks.
Oh, no script ad, I thought you meant the actual tag in the HTML. Yeah, you can turn off JavaScript and all those things, and it'll probably protect you a little bit.
Will turning off JavaScript protect you from Windows web bugs?
Yeah, it'll also disable most of the internet, but yeah. For you.
So I think that
Good luck filling out a form, or anything, yeah. I mean, but yeah, you won't be able to comment or anything like that, but you will.
It's not that bad. I turn things off. The only thing is sometimes if it's still not working, I'll say out loud, I'll look at now you're telling me I can't just love it.
I would not trust a lot. Well, it's a lot of it's going to do with your behavior too. If you go to specific shopping sites, expect it. It's going to happen to you, especially if you are looking at one thing repeatedly. It's not going to happen one time. If you have to be repeatedly, where it's like we can tell that person's shopping or researching a product. Yeah, if you just went to a site one time, it wouldn't happen. But if you went there, it was like really clear. You're spending like a half hour on this site, and you're looking at prices and all those things. It'll go. That looks like a target. I'm going to follow that person and give them some ads.
There's an event in the first half of the year called Home to Own, and they tested all the browsers, right? So they
Took all the browsers and had a bunch of researchers try to defeat the security, like all kinds of inherent pieces of the IEs, pop-up blocker, and all the other stuff that it does. Firefox, the only browser that they weren't able to defeat during that period of time was Google Chrome. I don't know if you've used that, but you can't do a lot with that, right? If you go to any cool site that's got interesting things going on, right? All of those things that are going on the web, it's really code that your browser is rendering and executing. And so it's really difficult. This gets into something that we've been exploring in the blog, just around how do you tell people how not to get infected. It used to be easy. We used to say, hey, if you get an attachment and it's an executable, right, don't open that because that's bad. Everything else, cool, you're fine. There's not going to be a problem. That's changed. You can't, there are all of these counterpoints to all this stuff. Again, trying to describe to somebody how to discern an evil URL from an okay one, I have no clue how to do this anymore. I look at, again, what I've done, we just clean up machines now.
But you can check for the root domain, right? That's
You can't.
They're hiding those now too.
Yeah.
This is the thing. You'll see something. It'll say like capital1.com, and then you'll see all the slash whatever. And then if you kept traveling at all 5,000 characters to the end, it says .something.ru Russia. You're like, wait a minute. They got two. How can they have 2 or 3 .coms in there? All those other ones are ignored. This whole thing's a big redirect to the very last one. It's really insidious.
And even like an even trickier one that again, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, well, of course that's malicious, right? It fooled a lot of people, and it really was companyname.com, .session ID, a bunch of stuff, right? So the top level domain is way down here, but people are just looking at the first 3 octets, right, and making a bad decision based on that.
On email browsers, and your email app sometimes doesn't show you that whole thing like your browser would. You can sit there, move your cursor, and see the end. You can't do that on the status bar of your email.
And all of this is made more complicated by TinyURL, right, and other things like that, where we're actually, oh gosh, and Twitter, we can't show that, right? So in fact, we want to shrink that for you to help you out, right? And hidden in that could be very bad things. Now, Twitter's trying to help us out by looking for malicious links, but that's never going to be totally effective.
Where's your blog?
Socialthreat.com. Yeah, here's our bios. So there's Scott. There's me.
28 characters.
Yeah.
How hard can it be?
There's our blog.
So what about the Russian 20-year-old model women in bikinis that want to be my friend on Facebook? What's up with that?
Oh, you can totally trust that.
Yeah, those are absolutely legitimate. Every one of them knows me. That's all your speaking gigs. There's a whole lot of those going around where you'll get friended by a really attractive person that has 2 friends.
Right.
And you're like, I don't know who this person is.
It actually
that
says
is
more
not exactly. It's not who that
more
is.
about you than it does the bad guys. You're like, oh, that's totally plausible. Sure,
Right.
So to bring it back to digital marketing and people who are getting into that field and working that field now, when you're representing a company on Facebook or all these social networking websites, we've talked about what not to do and how to avoid it, but how when you are on Facebook, let's say, and some 20-year-old model or whatever wants to be your friend, and it's some sort of, I guess my question is, how do we keep the company safe when you're representing someone who's not?
I mean, like if say you run a page for a company, the profile page, and you start getting friend.
Or really anything that has that.
On any of those things, I mean, like all the pages we run, we've got moderators, and they do look at that. If I see someone trying to friend us, and they've got 3 friends, and 0 information on their page whatsoever, created 2 days ago, and all that, hit ignore. If they come back, send them a message. You won't get a message back.
But an important part of what you're pointing out is that the relationships that you hold in these environments
Can be important. You guys know that better than I do, right? Marketing people would know, but you shouldn't just friend everybody, right? And I think when LinkedIn was an important lesson for me. I had that for years. Nobody used it, and then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it exploded. I just started getting all these requests. And I'm okay. And then eventually you realize that you may have people in those environments. It gets back to privacy and some of the dangers in all of these social environments that you might not want to be a part of your social networks.
Yeah, I have a personal rule. If you don't have 10 friends in common with me, I'm not friending you. And because the sheer number of friend requests I get, I would have hit my 5,000 limit by now. And I kept it down, and I called out 1,000 people last year because I was like, I do not know that person, I really don't. And a lot of times I think they're people, if they don't send me a message saying, I met you at such and such convention, You know, because it's unbelievable. They find people like me or Derek as targets because we talk a lot. They're going to instantly look for people like us and go, oh, he'll just find anybody, you know.
Yeah, I called mine down for 5,000. Exactly.
My computer has, I think, AWG for the security, and they'll run a scan, and they'll come back and say, you know, no threats and all that. Is that reliable?
Yeah.
Today,
It's become a commodity.
Maybe that's it.
All of those
Yeah.
companies. I mean, the larger problems. So, I don't think this is all.
But most of the major events that are happening, so you should run that. So first of all, before, like back to the externalities paper, that's not an excuse not to do that stuff, because most of what will happen is that your computer will become so overrun with malware that it'll be a problem. Like the number of instances that I've seen people that have had horrible things happen to them, and they've had everything done right and still got infected, you know, it never happens, right? In fact, what you find is like 115 pieces of malware on their machine, and well, I didn't want to pay the $60 it was going to take, so instead they're paying $200 to Geek Squad to fix their machine, right? So I think ADG or anything else is going to have about as good a chance of solving the virus problem for you. It's not going to solve them all, right? You need to make good decisions about the files that you're downloading, the sites that you're going to. Nothing will solve it, but that's a good start. You know?
Our own behaviors.
It is.
Yeah, our own behavior is some of our worst enemies. And when you look at where you're going, and you know, look at the sites you go to. You know, I asked this the last time I spoke here. How many people know what the percentage of the internet is porn?
75. That's where I would have been to.
Anybody? That's too high.
65.
35. 1%.
It's 2%. Yep. Yeah, it's only 2%, but but unfortunately, the way it part of it's human behavior, and part of it's just we just encounter it a lot from the way it is interacting with other things, and they tend to be technologically advanced ahead of a lot of us through the internet. But you think about that, most of the internet is still text documents. There really is a lot of it, and 1/2 of the internet right now is YouTube. They're consuming 1/2 of all the bandwidth of the internet. Isn't that weird?
That's
Question for the pair of you. You've given us some great, this is absolutely fabulous, terrific information for our lunch and Arbor marketing community and others. Are there other places that we can go to look to get additional tips and information that you've given? You know, we've got socialthreat.com,
Yep.
your website. Are there other sites, or would you be able to provide us with a list that
Yeah, we can give you a really good list actually, because there's quite a few right now of people that are independently looking at a lot of stuff right now. And some of them have specialties and some don't. And there's a whole site that just tracks what the Zeus Avalanche botnet is doing every day.
And increasingly, one of the things that I've struggled with is as my daughter, you know, is on her computer more often,
It's starting to freak me out a little bit. But so I'm having to learn, like, what do you do? And there weren't, 2 years ago, a couple of years, there weren't a lot of sites to help you understand. I don't want to freak her out completely, right? There's really evil things going on out there. Have fun. So I'm trying to find ways to, to help her understand, just like being in a neighborhood analogy. It's a bad neighborhood. You have to be careful, but it's all fit. But there are more sites now, and some of them I think we have on, links on the site
Yeah,
to
we
that.
have a huge blog row on there on social thread of other sites.
Yeah, but there's
Another one we can go to.
there's more info to help guide not only you, but how you're articulating this to your kids and family and all that. So.
Just as an example, what is the Zeus botnet? So we have an example of what Steve talks about that.
How much time do you get?
So wow. Okay, so it's still all right. Zeus. Zeus is the predominant front end. It's the piece of malware that gets installed on your computer that then communicates with an enormous back end botnet. It is right now, probably doing more damage to the internet and corporations than any other piece of software in existence. So, for instance, what it can do to your computer. When you send, let's say that you're going to send an email, it's probably the simplest version. If you're going to send me an email, hey, how are you doing today, Scott? And you send that to me, this will actually grab that form on the way out, that that as you're sending that to Gmail, it can change what's in it, and it can also change who it's being sent to on the way out of your computer. So it's actually, you can have it encrypted, great. It's sitting in between you and Gmail and is able to change values in that. That's just one of the features that's available in Zeus. It can do a lot of other things that are much worse than that. It's being specially designed to evade security software and systems that are being installed and people are spending a lot of money on. It's really bad stuff. The percentages of people that get infected, as Dave mentioned, there's actually a great website if you guys want to check it out called Zeus Tracker. I think it's .ch. We can actually put the link up. They'll start doing searches for Zeus. That could be bad. But Zeus Tracker will show you the percentages of people on a daily basis that are infected, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's some of the same guys that are running that also did the Configure working group, another major botnet. You guys remember the April Fool's Day worm this last year? So some of those same people are working on trying to solve Zeus and study it. So did that get you anywhere close? That's one small piece of a lot of other badness that they're doing. How many millions are in it? Now it changes. And it depends on the variant. What's becoming confusing is that there are so many variants that they're actually selling software development kits for Zeus now. So you can just buy the SDK and do your own Zeus if you want. Have your own botnet.
That's why I said there's DVDs available and how-to kits on YouTube of how to basically disable a country.
Sure.
You've been talking about applications for phones and the internet as far as a PC or a computer standpoint. But what are your thoughts on people now tying this in? Sony, Toshiba, all those companies that are offering a lot of these app-style programs as part of your TV, where your TV has Wi-Fi in it, and now you can get Netflix, Hulu, Facebook, all these things on your TV. And where's the privacy?
I think that's going to be the exact same thing that happened with mobile. It's going to be the next frontier to get attacked.
Yeah. Or your car. There's nothing that
when
my car getting infected, right? Yeah,
I remember, I was working at GM 6 years ago at a time when the Cadillac CTS was the first one to get a really good onboard computer, and I remember reading hackers talking about how this was going to be the next frontier. They were going to be able to turn off intersections, block cities so that certain politicians couldn't get through, all through wiping out car computers. They were going to do, if you could hit a whole street of ignitions and kill them all at once, it'll happen. Some city's going to experience it at some point in the future. It hasn't happened yet, and so far the advantage is no one's using the same system through all their cars, which is it's a blessing.
One more question?
Sure, whatever. Wait, someone back here did not ask one yet. Yeah, you got it.
I'm just on that parent side.
Yeah.
Okay, so I finally gave in. She's going to be a freshman. I let her get on Facebook. So what's my advice now to everybody that has a parent that has kids? What do we?
I would have a long talk about,
Like clicking button?
well, about know who your friends are.
That was a rule, yes.
I mean, for real.
But if your friend sends you farm whatever,
Then again, look at the name. Because the problem is, these aren't coming from your friends. They're coming from names you don't know. And if it says like you've been tagged in a photo, it'll actually show up on your wall with the photo. These aren't coming in that way, they're coming in as a message. You're like, well, that's kind of odd. I didn't know they came in that. And you click on it anyways, and all of a sudden, man, you're infected. And all you see is a page on someone's photo section, not on your wall. It isn't a photo, it's a JPEG of Sims or something, but you've already been infected before you've even gotten that far. Talking about really looking at links of don't just click, look first, read it. Really read it, every part of it. See is that somebody I know or not? Because it's our own behavior that's screwing us up on Facebook in particular.
You can't run from it, right? If you do, they're going to hide it, create one on their own. I've gone through this with my nephews, and it's better to get in front of it and be more aggressive about it. So friend them, make sure they let you friend them.
and my sister,
Everybody, yeah, I'm the jerk uncle on Facebook that's always like, you really shouldn't post that. That's a bad idea.
All right, so good. So that was very, very interesting. Let's give these guys a big round of applause. Thanks, Dave and Scott. And if you do have more questions, come up afterwards. But it's about 10 minutes too, so let's see if we can introduce everybody in 10 minutes. What do you think? I think we can do it. All right, so basically give us your name, your company, and what you do, and then pass the mic to a friend. Please stand up when you do it, and we'll start with Mark.
Hello there, I'm Mark Olivier, and I do affiliate marketing.
Hi everybody, I'm Don Klein from Floating Artists and Box Music. I do music and marketing and sometimes both.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Gutierrez. I'm a graphic and web designer, and I do user interface design as well and social media for business.
I am Greg Peters with The Reluctant Networker. I help people be comfortable in events like this.
What up? I'm Spencer Sposky. I'm with Mercantile Exchange down the street. Need cheap office space? Talk to me!
I'm Tiffany Reisner. I'm interning with Derek at Ingenex Digital Marketing.
I'm Chris Mullins. I work with Research Vision. I'm a search engine marketing analyst.
Hi, my name is Ellie Ganell. I'm with the Carytown Concert House.
Hi, I'm Claire Harold. I'm from Booth Communications and I'm a graphic designer.
I'm Anna Erickson. I'm an account executive at Booth Communications.
Hi everyone, I'm Kendra Carr with the Entrepreneur Source, and I'm a business coach.
Hey everyone, I'm Casey Stanton. I run Arbor Marketing. I drive traffic to your website. I track it the whole way. I can convert as inexpensively as possible.
Hi, I'm Stacey Collick from Dollarville Copying. We're a local digital print shop.
Good afternoon, my name is Kim McIntyre and I'm a freelance marketer.
Hi, my name is Brett Worsfold. I'm a student at Eastern Michigan, pretty much done now. Just looking for a marketing experience.
Hi, my name is Jack Brisbane, and this is the first time I've been here, and I was interested in the lecture on security threats.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Block. I work in the Career Services Division of the Ann Arbor CIO, so if you know of anyone looking for a job, come talk to me.
Rich Austin from Sandler Trading. We're in sales consulting and coaching development.
Hi, I'm Shauna Nicholson. I do online marketing. I'm Leila from Affordable Computers.
Hi, I'm Ryan Cardnew, and I'm front-end developer and web designer, and I'm kind of freelance right now, so.
Hi, Eric Rodriguez, Client Services Manager with Ingenex. I'm Ross Johnson with 3.7 Design, which is a web design and web strategy company.
Hi, I'm Megan McCann with Search Ad Marketing, and I'm the founder of the newly to launch Pay-Per-Click Club, where we will train business owners